Good morning, everybody. I have drawn the short straw this morning, and I am chairing the great Conservation Commission to this morning. I guess we'll start off with roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bogue.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Hackett.
Here.
Commissioner McGowan.
Here.
Commissioner Mesner.
Here.
Commissioner Nanjapa.
Here.
Commissioner Robbins. Madam Chair, you have 6 out of 7 commissioners present.
Thank you. The next thing on our agenda is general public comments. We have 8 commenters today, in addition to the 6 written comments that were submitted that you can find in the portfolio. And the first speaker we have today, or the commenter, is Ms. Venner.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sorry.
Apologize for interrupting.
Did we mess up? Oh, yes. AEG Minor has a reminder for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No laughing, Mr. Mesner.
Starting August 10th, the Commission began a adjudicatory hearing on the matter of staff of the COGCC, v. KP Kaufman, docket number 2011000261. Commission provided opportunities for the public to comment on that hearing before it began. That hearing is ongoing and will continue through at least September 21, 2021. To maintain a fair hearing that provides the parties with due process, the Commission decided it would not be appropriate to accept public comment into the record or to consider public comments in the course of the hearing. Consistent with that decision, the Commission will not accept public comments today on the KPK enforcement matter. Should a commenter begin to speak to the KPK enforcement matter today, we will interrupt to request the commenter move on to a different subject.
Thank you, AEG Davenport. So hopefully that's clear to everybody who wishes to comment this morning, and we'll jump into public comments with Ms. Venner.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I would like to make some observations as a former public servant, a commissioner, and a state manager dealing with both essential infrastructure and the environment. Looking at many of the comments you have received on the starter straw draw proposal for financial assurances, I'm observing, maybe as you have too, that there is the widest array of support I have ever seen for important revisions to the financial assurances proposal before you release it again. Not least that there should be a full cost cash bond aligned with the upper end of costs for fracking, closing, and plugging. Perhaps in the range of $270,000 to $300,000 per well, looking at recent estimates from Carbon Tracker and also what Alaska and North Dakota are doing. I also call your attention to research published in the last week that says that the leakage rates are at least twice what the US EPA has been working, and that all wells leak over a 30-year period. These wells are something that will need to be managed over a very long period of time. And I don't know if those costs, I think those are just closure costs. So you will have to figure out what, what it's going to take on an ongoing repetitive 30-year basis in the future. We also want to call attention, so I want to list all of these different groups that I saw. As you know, I'm from the Small Business Alliance, but we also saw support from youth, from NAACP members, Green Latinos, faith organizations, grassroots, frontline neighborhood and community organizations, and former local city council people. All of those were expressing support for the red line comments delivered by Colorado Rising, the League of Oil and Gas Impacted Coloradans, Sierra Club, Earthworks, conservation groups, Wild Earth Guardians, and 350 Colorado. Although, I guess all of those groups have added information of their own as well. It's very important, I think, to highlight also 350's new work on a climate fund that should be utilized as well, because those impacts are very important and serious and ongoing. I think Heidi Leithwood may have drafted those. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments today, Ms. Fenner. Our next speaker, commenter is Wayne Quaid.
Give us just a moment, Madam Chair. It takes a bit for the Zoom to promote folks to panelists.
No worries, thanks. Good morning, Mr. Quaid. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, greetings, fellow environmental stewards. I would like to express my concerns about orphaned wells. This is a problem not only for the managing agency, but for the impact on sensitive ecosystems, but is a direct threat to wildlife and the recreating public. Unmaintained orphaned wells are known to leak hazardous chemicals into both air and water. It is well known that this is a source of methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, but it is not always known about the effects of soil on soil organisms and various subsurface water table pollution. Mitigation and cleanup and reclamation should be the sole responsibility of the propagator and not left for future generations to address and rectify. All this is why I have to ask you to require full cost bonding tied to the original propagator of the potential environmental health hazard. Too often, our maneuvers such as blanket coverage and downsizing sell-off are used to avoid full responsibility. Mitigation and cleanup after the new owners bankruptcy, for instance, is either not done or left to the taxpayer. Let's make sure the full burden of the remedial impact is placed on the original cause agent. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments today, Mr. Quaid. Appreciate it. Next, we have Al, I hope I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, Lawandy. Good morning, Mr. Lawandy. Can you hear us? And is that how we pronounce your last name?
Lawandy, close
Lawandy.
enough. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity to speak on this subject. It kind of blows me away, frankly, that we even have to have a discussion and hearings and whatnot about this. Where did common sense get left behind? Cleaning up a mess is part of the cost of producing a product. And I don't think there's too many products in our society that get the kind of government welfare the oil and gas industry gets by leaving all these orphaned wells for taxpayer cleanup. I would urge this group to use common sense and enact rules that require the full cost to be put upfront in bonds for every single well. The blanket bond is a ridiculous travesty. Every single well that somebody wants to drill should have upfront costs for the sealing and cleanup paid upfront. And if the industry cannot afford the cost of doing that, then maybe they shouldn't be producing that product. Nobody else in our society is encouraged to produce products where the taxpayer has to pay a good chunk of the actual costs. You talk about the damage to the environment, the damage to property owners who are left with this stuff behind. It's just unconscionable. So I urge you to do what common sense tells all of us should have been done a long time ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawandy. Appreciate you speaking today. Next, we have Rosanne Evans. Good morning, Ms. Evans. Can you hear us? If you can hear us, you might be on mute.
Oh, there. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm on my iPad and I'm not sure exactly. I didn't know how to unmute. Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Rosanne Evans and I live on the West Slope. And I am hoping and asking the commission to require a full financial assurance that all of the wells be cleaned up after they're done with. There are 236, as I understand it, orphaned wells out there that are polluting and causing damage to our land and danger to the health of our people. So I'm asking that you have a large enough bond that is a financial assurance that they will be cleaned up, because I really, as a taxpayer, do not like being left to foot the bill of some big company making money and then just leaving. There are real consequences for those of us who live on the Western Slope. This is our home, and we want to have assurances that they will be cleaned up. It's harm to our health and safety, harm to our wildlife and environment, harm to jobs in our economy, and a waste of my taxpayer dollars. So I ask you to please require a bond financial assurance that is large enough to clean up after the wells. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Thanks for participating this morning. Next, we have Alexis Schwartz.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Good morning. Figuring screens. Good morning, commissioners. So my name is Alexis Schwartz. I'm a concerned resident of Colorado. I strongly support your efforts to protect public health, the environment, wildlife, and our biological resources. I respectfully request that you pass strong statewide rules that require operators to pay the full cost of cleaning up their wells and incentivize oil and gas operators to properly plug and abandon wells when they're no longer productive. Because of insufficient bond levels, there's currently no incentive for operators to plug and abandon wells. It's financially more beneficial to them to delay plugging a minimally productive well indefinitely than it is to plug the well and remediate their sites. Nearly 10% of Colorado's oil and gas wells haven't produced any oil or gas in the last 2 years. The result of current regulations incentivizing operators to do anything other than plug the well. These state regulations leave Coloradans today and in the future at risk of picking up the tab to clean the mess that'll be left behind. Colorado taxpayers have been burdened with paying operators cleanup costs for too long. I wish to remind the Commission of its responsibility to adhere to its mission change as detailed by Senate Bill 181. The Commission shall require every operator to provide assurance that it is financially capable of fulfilling every obligation imposed under the oil and gas laws. I respectfully request that you adopt rules requiring full cost bonding to require that operators submit a bond sufficient to cover all costs associated with properly plugging, abandoning, and reclaiming wells. Thank you for adopting rules that will result in increased responsibility of operators, fairness to taxpayers, and a cleaner world for all.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Very much appreciated. Next, we have Diane Thompson.
And Madam Chair, I'm not finding Ms. Thompson in our attendee list. If she is there and could raise her hand, we will get her in as a panelist.
Do you want to move on to Ryan Van West while we look for Ms. Thompson?
We can definitely do that.
Okay, great.
And I'm not seeing Mr. Van West either. Mr. Van West, if you are in the meeting and can raise your hand, we will get you in as a panelist. We can move on to Ms. Shayna Oliver.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, thank you. Forgive me.
Hi.
Yes, we can hear
It's
you.
Ryan Van West. Yeah, thanks very much. And really appreciate that the COGCC is taking our comments today. So I'm Ryan Van West, and I'm the past president of Western Colorado Alliance, and I live here on the Western Slope, and I've been following oil and gas issues in the state for the past 15 years. So to be brief, I'm aware that the state of Colorado has approximately 29,000 stripper wells, a majority of the wells actually in the state of Colorado, many owned by the large operators, others by smaller ones. Production appears to be declining here in our state. Most operators, as we know, are reliable and want to responsibly plug wells that are no longer productive. But this still leaves many of these wells, many stripper wells in particular, that fall through the cracks, wind up being orphaned, for which no entity is responsible other than the state. Well, that entity happens to be you and I. It goes without saying that the taxpayer has been bitten on numerous occasions over the years on cleanups for uranium and hard rock mining, for which there was no adequate bonding, coal mining, for which there has not been adequate bonding, and now orphaned ONG wells, for which there is no adequate bonding. Honestly, this has to stop. Taxpayers don't want to subsidize ONG operators who are not willing to put up a bond to clean up after they've skimmed the cream from their operations. It isn't fair. I support full cost bonding for oil and gas operators to set aside the money needed to plug a well before drilling, both for new and transferred wells. I'm opposed to blanket bonds, a scheme such as self-bonding used by coal companies that failed to cover cleanup costs when they went bankrupt. Let's not let that happen in our beautiful state of Colorado. Thanks for taking my comment today.
Thank you, Mr. Van West, for your comments this morning. Do we have Ms. Oliver with us this morning?
We do.
Good morning, Ms. Oliver. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
All right, good morning. Thank you. I just want to start.
Ms. Oliver is frozen on my screen. Is she frozen on anyone else's? Oh, did we lose her?
We lost her. She is coming back into the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Oliver. Let's try again. You froze on our screen. You might want to try as much. Well, I love seeing people in person, but turning off your video sometimes helps also us not lose you.
All right. I just want to start off with the land acknowledgement. Moms Clean Air Force Colorado chapter acknowledges the stolen lands of 574 tribal nations, and that we sit directly on the lands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and 45 other tribes that once occupied Colorado. My name is Shayna Oliver. I'm a Northeast community member of Denver and a field organizer for Equal Madres and Moms Clean Air Force in Colorado, which is an organization of moms, dads, and caregivers united in fighting for all children's right to breathe and play in clean air. I am also an Indigenous people's rights advocate and most importantly, an Indigenous mother of 4. My family and I are descendants of the genocide known as the Indian Removal Act, known to the Diné as the Long Walk of the Navajo We are marginalized and segregated to live and work in communities that lack access to clean air, water, and adequate housing, healthcare, and education. As a tribal affiliate of the Navajo Nation, I've seen the devastation of land degradation and health impacts contributed by coal, uranium, oil, and gas. Because of these disparities, Indigenous people now have the highest rates of asthma, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, leukemia, adverse birth outcomes, and premature deaths than the general population. I myself was born low birth weight and with a birth defect and diagnosed with asthma as an infant. When Indigenous people leave the reservation, we are segregated to live and work in communities where housing are a lot closer to industrial zoning areas, Superfund sites, and highways. Scientists have known for years that air pollution is harmful to health, and especially true for vulnerable populations such as older adults, people with underlying health conditions, communities of color, low-income communities, pregnant women, and children. The COGCC must ensure the community's right to environmental justice as amended by House Bill 1266, Colorado law protecting communities disproportionately impacted by environmentally harmful operations, projects, and proposed agendas. If a company cannot afford to operate safely and meet all the safety needs of a community and protections of our environment and public health, companies cannot be allowed to operate by law and should not be given permits. Moms are looking to Colorado's leaders, agencies to take action on the climate crisis by moving away from dirty fossil fuels and increasing the assurance of cleanup of oil and gas operations on new and existing well sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Thanks for participating again this week. Did we find Diane Thompson?
We have not.
Okay, so I think I'm at the end of the list. Yes, okay.
Yes.
Great. Next on our agenda is a report from the director. Does Director Murphy have anything she wants to report today?
Apologies. I think I'll probably have a more robust presentation next week. And sorry that my dog's going nuts in the background. I think that's probably distracting for everybody. The one piece that I did want to provide an update on is I attended an IOGCC conference last week that was really instructive and interesting in terms of learning about some of the federal legislative proposals under consideration for orphan wells. And, you know, we're just following that legislation as it works its way through. And then the second update I wanted to provide is that we've posted annual operator activity reports on the webpage for 2018, 2019, and 2020. And each report includes the operator's active wells, well starts, permits approved, oil production and sales, gas production and sales, coal bed methane production and sales, and CO2 production and sales. So I think that this is a good resource and has a lot of information. It's a report that the organization has prepared annually for a long time, but it kind of dawned on us that it would be helpful to also make that publicly available. So we went back and pulled 3 years worth of it. The way you access it is from the COGCC homepage, click on data, and then click on go down to the statistics subpart and click on the operator annual activity report. So that's just kind of wanted to share that there's more information available that might be helpful for the public or for other folks. And I actually think I need to correct that. We need to go to the COGCC homepage and then click on data. And then go to downloads, apologies. And then on the downloads page, if you scroll close to the bottom, there's a section for statistics, or and then within that, there's a link to the operator annual activity report. So sorry, I skipped a step the first time I walked through. But that's the sum total of my update.
All right, thank you, Director Murphy. I think next on the agenda is Wellington Operating Company. Folks might recall that we had a presentation, I think a few months ago, about extending their permit for their pits. And I think I have a presentation for us today. So Ms. Larson, oh, sorry, Commissioner Mesner.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know, I see some of the public commenters still on the panel, and I didn't know if it was just on my screen or whether they're still on our panel and whether they should be removed.
Right, we'll work on cleaning that up and bringing in the folks who are going to present on Wellington Operating Company. Good morning, Ms. Blevins.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, hold on one second. Ms. Larson, I think we still have Al Lawandy on.
Yes, we are working on it. We're having a few little technical glitches on our side.
All right. All right, looks good from here. Ms. Blevins and Ms. Fulcher, would you like to introduce yourselves and head into your presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm Nicole Blevins, a shareholder with Beatty & Wozniak. And as Chair McGowan mentioned, I'm joined today by my colleague, Jill Fulcher. Together, we represent Wellington Operating Company. I'm going to, I have a short presentation for the commission to guide my comments. And if you just give me a moment, I will get that up on the screen. Make sure I did that right. Sorry, bear with me. Sorry, just a minute. Try this again. Are you all able to see my screen now?
Yep, we can. There you go. Yep.
Okay, thank you for your patience with that. I also have Randy Evans of Wellington Operating Company here today. Mr. Evans is the operator and responsible charge of the Wellington Production Water Treatment Facility. Okay. We are before the commission today on Wellington's unopposed motion for a 2-month permit extension to allow its continued operation of the facility pending a hearing before the commission on its renewal application in October. I'm going to now just give you a high-level overview of the facility to refresh your recollection. This facility treats produced water from the Muddy Wellington unit and discharges the treated water to waters of the state where it can then be beneficially reused. In doing so, the facility employs a series of filtration systems to clean the production water before it is then discharged to the ground through a series of rapid infiltration basins. This facility provides a pretty neat environmental benefit by adding approximately 830,000 gallons of water to waters of this state each month. The commission initially permitted this facility in 2005 for a 5-year term and subsequently renewed for 2 additional 5-year terms running through February of 2021. In February of this year, the commission granted a 6-month extension of the existing permits through August of 2021. During that extension period, Wellington collected data requested by COGCC staff, and staff coordinated with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment on permit updates based on revised regulations. More specifically, Wellington collected updated produced water characterization data for a variety of Regulation 41 parameters, as well as total petroleum hydrocarbons in accordance with COGCC Rule 909J. As I mentioned, staff coordinated with CDPHE to update permit terms based on revised regulations, both Water Quality Control Commission and COGCC. In addition, Wellington completed a hydrogeology and monitoring well review. So as far as the requested relief for your consideration today, Wellington seeks an additional 2-month extension of its existing permits through October 29, 2021, so that the facility may continue to treat and discharge the treated water pending a hearing before the commission on its renewal application, which is scheduled for October 18, 2021. I would also like to note that all interested parties have waived the 60-day notice requirement for today's hearing and have also indicated their support for the requested extension. Also, importantly, COGCC staff also supports the extension. That concludes my initial remarks, but of course, I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Blevins. And if you don't mind taking down your presentation, then I can see everyone better.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've got a question just about kind of the timing of the renewal application versus these extensions. I'm just curious. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the experience with these what produced water pits and then the recycling facilities. And I'm just curious, why are we going through 2 extension applications back in February and now instead of just having the renewal application that is scheduled to be heard for October? Why don't we hear that instead?
Ms. Blevins, you are on
mute.
mute.
Sorry, I'm having technical issues today. Apologies, I haven't been able to get this thing to come down off my screen. Sorry for that distraction. Anyway, that's a great question. You know, Wellington did diligently gather the additional information that was requested by COGCC staff, and by all accounts, you know, staff was coordinating proactively with Wellington. However, additional time was needed to respond to permitting staff feedback on the initial application, as well as to coordinate with CDPHE on the updated permit that will be proposed in connection with the renewal. And in addition to that, Wellington decided to engage outside counsel. So there was just a variety of factors that led to the need for an additional short extension.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hackett.
Thank you, Chair McGowan, and thank you for the presentation. More of a comment really than any questions. Just wanted to affirm what Ms. Blevins had said. CDPHE has been in regular coordination with COGCC staff on this process, and did want to express my sincere gratitude for COGCC environmental staff for being so responsive on this one and for incorporating many of, and I think pretty much all of the suggestions that the Water Quality Control Division staff had made. Just wanted to highlight for commissioners that there definitely has been a considerable amount of public interest around this permit. Myself, I think COGCC hearings and environmental staff have also received quite a bit of questions from concerned members of the public, some of whom I see are in the attendee list with us today. So kind of just a suggestion as we go forward to the renewal hearing in October. One thing that might be helpful and hopefully might help to put some of the public's concern at ease is a real clear, plain language explanation of how this permit does in fact protect public health and the environment, and maybe even you know, a graphic of the hydrology in the area, hydrogeology in the area, that can be easily digested by someone who maybe isn't a regulator or a hydrologist themselves. So just a thought there. And, you know, to be completely honest, with all due respect to Wellington and Wellington's council, I do think it would be more compelling if that piece of the presentation was to come from COGCC staff, maybe, you know, something that the members of the public would like to see. So just wanted to share those comments and happy to hear any responses to that if you have any.
I really appreciate the feedback. I think that's really great information. We do have an expert geologist who will testify regarding hydrogeology, and he does have exhibits. And so I think that will be very helpful in terms of the renewal application hearing, and I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
And then Commissioner Hackett, maybe we can talk to Director Murphy about what her expectations are from COGC staff for this presentation that will be coming back to us, this request.
And if I might, Chair McGowan, I'll just follow up and say Water Quality Control Division staff has indicated that they're more than happy to be available during the hearing itself to help answer questions, so they will be on hand.
Great, that's a great idea. Any other commissioners with comments or questions? Oh, there's Director Murphy. Okay.
Chair, just to say that, you know, we'll support it and can make ourselves available and talk about our experience as well.
Great. So good feedback for folks when you come back. Any more discussion or questions? Okay, so I think I need a motion to extend pit permit numbers 281818, 281824, and 416077 to October 29th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Gonzalez, seconded by Commissioner Nanjapa. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll see you all in October.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, I have a break on the agenda. Is everyone okay continuing to move forward to the consent agenda? Okay. So is there any discussion, questions, or comments about the consent agenda today? All right, and this is the part where I get muddled, but I do believe we need to vote on the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Mesner, seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Now we're to commissioner comments. Anyone have any comments today? Or are we all brain dead? Commissioner Mesner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give commissioners an update on the COGCC presentation on water use, reuse, and other beneficial uses in oil and gas operations that we had discussed previously. I did confirm the speakers. I did confirm the date. It will be on October 5th, 2020, starting at 9:30 in the morning. Wanted to just, again, go over this. I think the last time I discussed this was at a work session. And so for the interest of the public that may be interested in attending this, the goal of this presentation is a continuing education piece to ideally make us as commissioners a little smarter on this topic. But the goal is to develop a common knowledge base for the commission around overall water use by oil and gas operations, how this ties into current state water planning, current water rights issues regarding fresh and produced water in oil and gas activities, research and findings around produced water and its potential for use in both oil and gas activities as well as for other beneficial uses, and regulatory infrastructure and research gaps and barriers around produced water, and finally, current and emerging technologies on the topic. The speakers that I have set up is Russell Sands, is the section chief for water supply planning for CWCB. Matt Welsh and Bjorn Courtney from Element Water Consulting will discuss the topic of an overview of the state water plan as it pertains to oil and gas activities in Colorado. I've got Tracy Kozloff, Deputy State Engineer with Division of Water Resources, and perhaps joined by Scott Cuthbertson, Deputy Director COGCC, on the topics, an update on the report on water sources and demands for hydraulic fracturing of oil and gas wells in Colorado, as well as an overview of water rights as it pertains to produced water from oil and gas activities in Colorado, including opportunities and challenges for reuse. I've got a section in here for either CDPHE or COGCC staff to be determined, talking about water quality standards for use and reuse of produced water. I then have Shelley Chard, who's the director of the Water Quality Division for the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality, doing a presentation on the produced water report by the Groundwater Protection Council around regulations, current practices, and research needs. Then I have Nicole Saunders, who's the senior attorney for energy programs at the Environmental Defense Fund, talking about risks, research needs, and regulatory implications in utilizing produced water outside of oil and gas activities. I have representatives from Terra Energy Partners, who are oil and gas operators in the Piceance Basin, discussing current examples of use and reuse of produced water in gas operations, including successes, challenges, and emerging technologies. And finally, I've got James Rosenblum, who's a research professor at the Colorado School of Mines, as well as a managing director of WEST, which is a water technology hub, discussing current and emerging technologies around utilization of produced water. So that's the lineup. It's going to take most of a day, and happy to answer any questions you guys might have on this.
Any questions for Commissioner Messner? Sounds really timely and really very interesting, so I'm looking forward to that. Anybody else? Commissioner Hackett.
Thanks, Chair McGowan. Just a couple updates from CDPHE that I wanted to share. With respect to the Suncor refinery or emissions from the Suncor refinery, I understand, and I think all of us understand, that those emissions aren't regulated by the COGCC, they're regulated by CDPHE's Air Pollution Control Division. But of course, it makes sense to talk holistically about the full life cycle of emissions from the oil and gas industry, all the way from exploration and production through refining, through transportation, all the way through end use. So I did want to share this information with folks. People might recall that the Colorado Air Monitoring Mobile Laboratory, the CAML, recently completed an air monitoring campaign near the community surrounding Suncor. And just wanted to let folks know the results of that first phase of the monitoring campaign should be posted on CDPHE's website later today. We have a website that's specifically dedicated to Commerce City, North Denver issues, and I will paste that website in the chats if folks want to follow up with that, sign up for email alerts. If hearing staff can assist me there and make sure that gets out to the broader public who views those chats, that would be really helpful. So any questions about that before I share some updates about what the Air Commission September hearing will have? That's going to be very interesting for COGCC staff, commissioners, and members of the public. So I don't see any questions on Suncor there. So one thing I did want to flag for folks, and would definitely encourage you blocking out some time on your calendars for the September 17th Air Commission hearing. They will be receiving a briefing an update or a briefing on the greenhouse gas emission reduction roadmap. It sounds like representatives from the Colorado Energy Office, as well as the Air Pollution Control Division, they will update folks on the greenhouse gas efforts, the emission reduction efforts, and it does sound like they'll also highlight some of the progress that's been made towards the industrial sector-based targets, which presumably it will also include a discussion about progress made towards achieving the oil and gas industry emission reduction targets. So we would definitely encourage folks to sign up for that and view that hearing. And that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hackett. Anybody else? Okay, so unless I'm missing something, Hearings Officer Larson, Manager, sorry, I think we're at the end of our agenda.
That is correct. We are.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Mesner, seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, everyone have a good day.